Hello and welcome again to another episode of Meller Notes podcast. My name is William Meller and I'm glad to have you here for another conversation, another walk that is going to put some light on topics that can be relevant to your career, to the way you're leading your teams, maybe managing your business, always focusing on your personal and professional development. The focus here is that every conversation and perhaps every day, we want to walk together to be at least 1% better than the version that we were yesterday. That is the focus. A little bit better today than we were yesterday. And perhaps tomorrow we are going to be even better. Maybe 1% better again from the version that we are today. With that in mind, I always try to curate the best content that can put some good reflections in your mind. So during your next walk, during your next moment of thinking about your career, you can take those things in consideration and maybe today reflect with me on some things that I'm also thinking by myself about what is happening in the world. The purpose is never look to the hype, is never look to the noise out there, is actually to look on what is really making difference and can impact our daily lives or work or jobs or companies. Okay? As always, I try to make a good separation between what is, relevant, what is happening today, maybe connected with something that happened in the past. And that is always why I like to start this podcast with a story, something that can connect you with something that already happened in the past to the topics we are going to cover today. Today, I want to bring you back a few years later, and I'm sure you know the guy I'm going to share this story today. I want you. I want to bring you to New York in the end of the 19th century to a man that arrived as an immigrant to the United States. His name was Nikola Tesla. Probably you already heard the name. And immigrated he immigrated and arrived in the United States with very ambitious ideas in his mind. He was one of those people that was not just an engineer, but someone who could see the whole thing together when thinking about a solution. A brilliant mind, someone who could look to a problem and in a quick walk, just thinking about an impressive and innovative solution for that problem. Tesla believed that alternating current was the best and the more efficient way to distribute energy across long distances. On the other side, we had another genius, the man who had and still have more patents registered in the United States. His name is Thomas Edison. And Thomas Edison was already established at that point. I mean, already very rich with the entire business and infrastructure running on a different technology, direct current. That is basically two ways of making energy be distributed across long distances. But of course, he felt the challenge. He felt the what is coming from Tesla was actually quite good. The problem here is that Edison already had all the investors. The money was flowing to Edison ideas because he was already, he already built his influence to whatever was working and he invented. And for energy was not different. The point is, Tesla for sure had the better solution. And what followed at that point was what would be known later as the war of currents, alternating current and direct current. And in this case, Edison ran many public campaigns against Tesla ideas, even with public demonstrations that his idea was not that good, even though Edison knew that it was better technically. Well, Tesla won this fight, but only technically, because alternating current was adopted, and for sure, the world saw that this man was quite brilliant in what he was doing, but he still had a gap to understand how the system works. And years later, Tesla would work on something even more ambitious. He wanted to transmit energy wirelessly, transmit energy to people globally for everyone without using cable. So wireless transmission of energy. Super ambitious. So he would build his tower for make this happen, and he was founded by some very powerful people. We include one of the most rich persons of the time, J.P. Morgan. Yes, himself. And JP Morgan was funding the project. Tesla was starting to work on that until Morgan asked a very important question. How are we going to charge people for this? That was the point that JP Morgan understood that this idea from Tesla, even though it was brilliant, that would make the access for energy democratic and quite hard to control centrally, and therefore make a good amount of money out of that. What happened? Of course, the funding for the project stopped. The project died, the tower and everything was dismantled, and Tesla would end his life in a rotor room in New York with almost no money. And of course, many years later, we know that now in 2026, many years later, his ideas will be like will become the foundation of many things in our modern world for the technology we have working around us today. But the system is always quite a hard one to fight against or even fight within. So that was a hard one for Tesla to beat that. But do you remember what I said in the beginning? That Tesla was actually an immigrant arriving in New York? Yes, he was. And this is exactly connected to what I want to bring for our discussion today. Because in 2026, being a global professional and work across the borders is becoming, it's still advantage, but it's becoming harder and harder. The world is not the same. And I'm Brazilian working and living in Sweden, so I am also an immigrant. And I'm here contributing to the society. I'm trying doing my best to integrate, of course. The discussion is not the political one. So if you want to reflect and discuss about immigration from a politics perspective and other points, this is not the point of my conversation here. So you can leave if that was expecting. But I'm talking from a business and career perspective. Things are becoming harder this year because the world is changing. The countries are creating big and harder limitations to bring talents or make sure that the companies can bring people from other countries. And the cost for becoming or for building this international career, it's rising. I mean, it's not only about the financial cost I'm talking here, but the stress about that for the people who want to have an international career. Of course, the professionals who already crossed the borders, they are paying a price for that because they are creating so many anxiety about this topic. They are not sure if their visa is going to be renewed in the same way, and if they are bringing or working there with their family and supporting their family, how that is going to play out. And then there is a lot of things around how these people is integrating to the society, which of course is very important. I spoke about that already in a video. That is crucial that if you are moving to a new country, you understand that in this new country you have some different rules and ways of living that are different from your country. I know that moving from Brazil to Sweden. Again, that is not the point. But for the companies and for the professionals, is for sure becoming a hard thing in 2026 to make sure that we can fill the talent gap, bring the talent for that the company needs, and also for the professionals to move themselves to a new country, to a new opportunity. And for many years, the model was quite clear. A company would have like a talent demand, and they will need to find some qualified people. And if they cannot find that internally or around then in the country, I mean, they will need to research that internationally and they would hire someone from another country. They will support with the process and that person will arrive there and start working. But the market right now in 2026 is showing some different signs. And for the first time in many years, this the gap or the movement from people from different countries to work is actually decreasing. We have this research, interesting one, supporting the data for what I'm saying here for the from the International Institute for Management Development, the IMD, and they identify an international mobility systems. It's it's changing completely the job market now. It's slowly but changing. For example, US and UK and actually many other countries in Europe, they are making it a bit harder or tightening the requirements to get work visas, which is making the queue for getting those visas approved quite long and the process much slower. And of course, more expensive, more uncertainties around this. But the needs for the companies didn't change because companies are still facing the challenge of finding the right talent locally. So it's like a structural paradox. The companies don't find the talent in their local country, and they need to find that externally. So they need to see where I can find that, and they go for this slower process now to find an international talent. And people will need more documentation. They feel there is more uncertainty, but talent, talented people, they are not waiting on the borders. They for sure are taking the ownership to their careers and considering where is it smarter to move. Sometimes it's even staying in their home country or going to somewhere where the opportunity or the doors are opening in the best way to develop their careers. So many companies are facing this problem. And why it is a structural paradox? Because basically the companies having challenge to hire, they are going to face economic challenge as a consequence because they do not have the talent to work for them. And then where the the snowball will end up having consequences, of course, in the country's economy. So it's complicated, but all the systems that are putting, all the immigrants in the same package, in the same box, is going to create also problems for those countries in terms of economic growth. For the third time, I'm saying that the discussion here is not the political one. So I am sure that there will be someone watching this video and trying to criticize me because of some other perspective from political point of view, and that is not the point because the point here or what I'm addressing is the immigration to work, talent people who are moving to do some important job that companies cannot find locally. So it's not about the stealing jobs. It's not about th- those different kind of immigration movements that are being discussed. It's not about that. I'm talking about the problems that companies and talent people are facing with or the consequences for having everyone classified in the same box. But as I said, the border is not going to block uh, people to continue growing their careers, and who is going to have those consequences are unfortunately the companies. Talents will not disappear at the board. They will not wait until everything is fixed or wait for the company. They will just follow their path and move ahead. If you lead global teams, my question to you or the reflection is, how are you preparing? Because if you're not going to find the talent you need locally, how can you fill the gap? Because you have a gap to be filled. And how are you going to organize your business, your hiring needs to make sure that you are going to find what you need with those in this different moment we are living? And for you as a professional, of course, what are you considering now? I don't know if you already did the movement. Maybe you are already an international professional working in a different country, or maybe you are working in your home country. But how are you feeling about this movement now? Are you feeling that it's the best strategy for you to maybe stay in your home country? Are you investing even more because maybe you're considered this as a good moment to uh, take the brave movement and move to another country? How are you considering that for your career? Please let me know. I'm very curious. Give me a comment and let's keep the discussion going on. As always, the topics are connected here somehow. Everything is like in the flow of the conversation. And it's hard to believe that companies are being able to fill all the gaps and problems that are suddenly arriving and becoming more serious in 2026 all at the same time, right? We have a new economic world, we have new rules, we have now more wars. The tension out there is critical at the same time that we have AI technology evolving super fast. So it's hard to keep even up to speed to what is happening and how your business should react to that. But there is another concern that I want to bring with the next topic, and I want you to reflect with me. Are you ready? There is a group of professionals who are responsible for at least 70% of the variation in the team engagement. This group of professionals is considered now one of the most demotivated groups in the entire company in different world in different countries and different companies in different industries. This group is the more demotivated one. And it's a group that it seems nobody is actually developing. I am talking about the middle managers. To support our conversation, as always, I want to bring some data that is quite relevant. And always when I'm doing my research, I bring data that is, it's covering different cultures, different countries, different industries. So it's not like a local thing. And the first one is from the Gallup State of Global Workplace, which is stating some interesting numbers here for our discussion. The global manager engagement fell from 30% to 27% in one single year in the last 12 months. And among those managers, the ones under 35, they dropped under 5% more. And between the woman in management position, 7%. So it's a big decrease in the engagement feeling. And by engagement, I also mean motivation to do the work, to feel engaged to do the work. That is the point of the research. And the estimated cost of this disengagement moment for those managers is in around 8.8 trillion US dollars, losing productivity for their company. So it's an impressive number. This research is one that I would recommend you to give a chance and give a read because it's quite impressive what is happening with the engagement for managers. I mean, those people, as I said, they are responsible for how people are going to feel in their companies. If the team is super motivated or super demotivated, normally, I mean, not always, but normally there's some, work of the manager, the local manager, the middle manager on that to motivate or maybe on the opposite. And the problem with this model, it's how actually we are seeing our careers for many years, like from technical, good professional and becoming a manager. We're going to talk about that very soon because maybe the problem is how we are mapping the careers in the new world of work that we are living. But let's bring more data for the discussion first. The second data I want to share is from a research from the Simon Sinek Institute, which did a big survey specifically to middle managers. And they discovered among those people that 70% of middle managers would rather go back to being individual contributors if they could keep their salary. That's an impressive number, right? 70% would like to or they prefer to come back to what they are doing as individual contributors. So stop having people management responsibilities if they could keep their salary. And the reason behind that from this research, it's always or it's pretty much the same among those 70%. They don't feel they have the support needed to do their jobs and manage their teams. Support from the organization, I mean. And only 22% of those are actively working to develop leadership skills. So the company is not supporting their development, and they are also not looking for developing themselves more to be better managers. Big gap, big problem. And finally, the third data point I want to share here is from the DDI Global Leadership Forecast that shares some more impressive data. 71% of middle managers are considered to be under very high stress, which is the biggest level in the history for those kind of positions. And 40% of the middle manager research are on this research, they are considering to leave their job in the coming months. It's an impressive number. Because back to what I was saying about I was saying on the way that careers are developed, what we normally have, what is the most common model? We have someone that is technically good on what they do, and they deliver super well. And there's a point where these deliverables get connected with an opportunity to grow, and they get promoted to some leadership or management position. And then the company would invest in this person to develop their leadership, and they would keep growing in this leadership route. But the data is showing that companies are not investing in leadership training as they did before. And what we are seeing is that people in the past would move to those positions, be developed as good leaders, and keep growing to maybe at some point be the persons leading the entire company. So be in a high management position. But right now, we have many people who are feeling stuck in the middle management position, not feeling they can actually go up because they don't feel the support to develop themselves. The data also show that they are not developing themselves actively or proactively in this case, and neither they are feeling a way to come back to what they did because the salary will need to decrease a little bit to come back to be individual contributor. So that is an interesting and problematic gap, which I want to invite you to discuss with me. What can we do first from a business and management perspective? How can, why the data is showing something so complex but at the same time so easy, that is development not being considered in a good way for the companies? I mean, we are talking about so many other things nowadays, AI technology, and unfortunately also talking about layoffs due to the AI evolution. But if we don't develop the leadership we have, we are going to face a bigger problem in the near future because AI can do many things and AI cannot do many things as well. And leadership, good leadership in this case, is not one of those that can be done by a robot. You need a good human leader to be able to set a good vision and move people all together to the same direction. You know, there is a difference between management and leadership that is quite interesting for this reflection, where management normally it's more about using their resources in the different ways that they or in the different contributions that can bring to their company or to deliver value. So you have someone that is brilliant in this area, you want to put more ways to use this position so you can bring that to your deliverable, to your project, to your initiative, and then you have that other person with some other more specific skills. So you want to use the specificities that you have in the different uh, people around your company to build something that makes sense altogether. So it's about the specific skills, about the specific deliverables that can be taken from the resources you have and from the people that you have. But leadership, it is about forgetting the specificities, the what this one is good or bad, what this other one is good or bad, but it's taking everyone to the same direction. So it's about vision, it's about where we are walking towards. And those things, they depend on someone that is good on connecting all the dots and setting this kind of vision to motivate people to walk to the right direction. And from a career perspective, from a professional perspective, the other discussion I want to bring here and reflect with you, it's on the way we are developing our careers, because I know that many people who um, watch my content or listen to my content or read my content, they are not interested on becoming managers. They want to develop in themselves, they want to keep growing their careers, but they are more interested in a specialist path. So they want to continue their careers as individual contributors, of course, growing their salary, growing their career, growing their path, but not having people's responsibilities. And in the other side, there are many people who interact with my content, maybe is the majority, who actually want to develop themselves even more and further and deeper on management and leadership. So they want to understand the best frameworks, the best ways of interact with different teams, negotiating, how to flow the communication around the company, how to make sure that they are putting all those things together to deliver value, to be more efficient. So they want to become not only managers, but great managers, the best ones. And I know that self development, thinking about our development is important, but the investment from the company is, of course, very crucial here, because if you don't feel you have the support for that, unfortunately, normally people would leave to a place where they can find that. But please, the reflection for you, for your career, if you are in this group, it's what are you actively doing to move ahead? Because if your company is not investing on you or developing your leadership, is that all? I mean, are you delegating your career and your movement and your growth to your company in that way? We should be the owners of our careers, of our decisions, and our growth. That's why I'm always telling you, that's my philosophy, that we should try to be at least 1% better every day, because that's how we keep growing. We want to keep learning, we want to keep developing ourselves. But it depends on you, it depends on us to do the right steps and to find what is the best way to keep developing our careers. With this topic, I think we make a great connection to keep talking about development, but now from a different perspective. I want to talk about personal branding. You know, we are in a very weird moment when it comes to personal branding, at least from a chaotic perspective, because people are confusing many things, unfortunately, when it comes to online visibility or any kind of visibility, what it means to build a personal brand that you can be, that people can remember who you are, what you do in a good way. And unfortunately, AI is in the middle of this as well, because you spend maybe the last 2 years developing yourself or trying to understand how you can get AI as part of your workflow to develop your ideas and maybe even to create content. Because you had great ideas, you want to expose a little bit more of your career, your online visibility, or maybe just working in your personal branding. And now you have tools that can take your ideas into something that can be posted online. And many people start doing that quite frequently. The problem is that everyone is doing the same. Everyone seems to be using AI to produce some kind of content to position themselves online. And now everything just look like is the same person writing. Even though we have millions of people writing and posting, everything just looks the same. So my call for this year and my reflection with you about your personal branding is, where is your identity? This big movement actually started, or personal branding movement, it started to grow more during the COVID pandemic in 2000 or around 2020 or after that. When people were working remotely, they started to feel the need to be more present online. And of course, LinkedIn was one of those platforms growing the most during that time because people wanted to create more visibility for them. They want to be seen and they started to create more content. In the beginning, it was super authentic. More people sharing their stories, sharing about the work, sharing about frameworks they are discovering, what they are learning, and they started to post more. But then AI arrived and it solved the problem of the volume. So people who didn't know how to organize their ideas now had tools who could help them create several posts, and maybe now they are prepared to have one post per week, maybe one per day, or something like that, without any kind of identity. They just let AI do the job, the work for them. That is a big problem because personal branding is not about the what or the how on what you're doing. Personal branding is what is in people's mind when they think about you. If someone, when they think about you or who you are as a professional, the first thing that came to their mind is like how efficient you are, how great you are on facilitating meetings, how great you are on negotiating deals. That is personal branding. That is what everything is about. It's not about the posts and everything that you do online. This is the how. And to do that strategically, you need to make sure that you know what is your voice, what and how you want to be positioned, and why, much before posting anything. I've been creating a lot of content online, and of course, I did a lot of things that I learned doing the right thing, and a lot of things that I learned by doing a mistake. And the volume was something that I keep learning all the time. There are moments where I have so many different ideas and I want to expose them, and the volume of creation is quite high. And some other moments, the volume is not that high. My idea is not flowing the same way. So, what I learned is that the most important thing is how consistent I am, but not only with the quantity, how consistent I am with my voice, my identity online. So if I'm positioned about something around project management, what people are seeing or they want to see more, it's my position about that, my ideas, my what only my brain can conclude about something, about a framework, about a technique that I tried, about something that happened in my job. This is what personal identity and personal branding is about. Something that only you can say. So, of course, AI can help you a lot in many ways for making this happen in a good way. I've been using AI in my workflow for better research, for better connection between the data that I research, for when I'm writing, for example, a better connection between the stories and the data and the things that are being researched about those topics. So It's great because I can see my content from many different optics, and I can even challenge myself more hardly to see things from a different or opposite direction sometimes. And even many of my content sometimes I don't even post because I stop in a loop, reflecting with myself, in this case, using some AI to support the workflow on the conclusions. And if I don't have a good conclusion that is William's conclusion, my conclusion, there is nothing to say. I mean, of course, I do a lot of content curation as well, like what I did here with you in many different videos and cases where we explore what is happening around our careers. But at the same time, my content, it has my identity. And this is exactly what we are seeing also in the data now on this topic. On the branding journal, we had a research in the beginning of 2026 that identified that professionals, they are much more present online. They're publishing more regularly, but we have a big differentiation problem. Everything looks like the same. Everyone looks like they have the same voice. And the main differentiator now for people publishing or putting their ideas out there, it's actually their identity, who they are, how original they are with their content. And there's another research that was published by the Entrepreneur magazine in February now 2026 that has some very interesting data. 44% of the employers, the companies research, they have hired someone because of their online presence. And around 54% have rejected candidates because of weak or inconsistent digital presence. So, from LinkedIn, what we learn is also part of this research from entrepreneurs that only 1% of the users are actually posting regularly. So, it is still like a bubble what we see. But at the same time, consistency, uh, it's it's still one of the most important things when it comes to any area of our lives. I think the consistency has been one of the words that I repeat the most in my content when it comes to advice to people, because consistency is actually the key. Like motivation will change every week, sometimes many times a day your motivation will change, but being consistent is one of the most important things that can keep your results and your work moving to the right direction. But being consistent just for the sake of doing things without originality, without quality, it also doesn't make sense. So, be consistent, of course, still is maybe in my entire life the most important thing to me. But now, with this data and what we are seeing here, we should be very concerned about the identity and the originality of our voice online as well. And if you don't know, maybe it's a good time to say it. I've been creating a lot of content and preparing people to improve their visibility online, focusing on their career. So I'm not talking about someone who wants to become an influencer or start creating content uh, like just for the sake of creating. I'm talking about you, professional, who want to improve your presence. It can be online or at least in your industry, the way you are seeing your company, in other words, improve your personal branding. And I call this project You Visible. It's now a newsletter where I share some very interesting reflections, frameworks, techniques to improve the way you are working in your personal branding and your visibility as a professional. So if you want to check that, there is always in the links you can find more about this newsletter, or you can just search You Visible newsletter and you're going to find that. Okay. So I hope you can check because it can make a big difference in your career. And with that, we close this third topic, then this third reflection on personal branding. And as always, I want to say Thank you for staying together in another reflection, another episode of Meller Notes. My name is William Meller. See you in the next episode.